Hi guys, so it was recently revealed that Ubisoft has a few new titles in their biggest franchises in production, particularly Far Cry 5, The Crew 2, and a new Assassin's Creed game. From all accounts, this information has seemed to divide the gaming community. Some gamers are very happy about these announcements, whereas others are quite simply very annoyed or even angry. To be entirely honest, I do believe that it's more likely you'll find more negative reactions to this information on online social media and gaming media platforms than positive reactions. Over the past few years, it's become quite expected to find some level of hate within the comments on a news article or video discussing one of their video games or announcements. This idea did lead me to think of two questions. Firstly, why do people hate Ubisoft so much? And then secondly, what can Ubisoft do to change this negative public perception? In answering the first question, I came across 5 commonly stated reasons as to why people hate Ubisoft. Firstly, they oversaturate the market with their less innovative games. I don't think a lot of people will argue with the fact that the first time you play a Ubisoft game, for example Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, that you generally tend to have a very good experience. It's the second experience when you play one of their sequels that it becomes apparent that this game is actually the same thing over and over again. Probably the best examples are the 2 previously mentioned series, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. In both of these games, the player is forced to climb a large number of towers to gain a bird's eye view of the map, collect a large number of collectibles, and then clear a certain number of outposts. It all becomes rather familiar after a while. While the first time you experience this, it might be very fun, the second time it all starts becoming very repetitive. I think a very good personal example is when I played Far Cry 4 and I got bored very quickly because it felt almost exactly the same as Far Cry 3. We were just in a different territory, but we were more or less doing the same things over and over again. Ubisoft's open world games have seemed to become largely checklist games that need to employ certain features, a trait that other publishers and developers have seemingly also begun to adopt to the dismay of many gamers. And then there's also the fact that Ubisoft floods the market with their games by having annual or biannual release schedules, somewhat drowning the possibility for other developers to attempt to innovate or release commercially successful titles. There's no way that a smaller publisher or developer releasing a game up against Assassin's Creed or Far Cry is going to win in terms of sales, or even going to see a good performance of that game. Then secondly, there is Ubisoft's CRM stance, or Uplay. Basically in 2009, in an attempt to combat piracy, Ubisoft employed an always online authentication system for some of their most popular games. For PC players, this meant installing an application called Uplay, which focuses on online authentication of their games. The use of an always online authentication system has somewhat resulted in a substandard gaming experience for PC players in particular. Sometimes just the time it takes to get Uplay to register your game, it's kind of ridiculous and takes away your desire to play that game. Personally, I don't really have all that much experience with Uplay because I'm not a huge PC gamer. The only Ubisoft title that I can remember really having on PC was Assassin's Creed 3, but I have had a few friends actually tell me how difficult it is sometimes to register these games. I can remember quite a few of my friends getting quite angry about how long it took to register Far Cry 4 and actually play the game when it came out. I don't know if this was a very common problem for people. Although Ubisoft did state in 2012 that they were moving away from an always online authentication system, there have been a few games since then that have employed this system, including For Honor, which was released earlier this year. Ubisoft's always online authentication system has also been known to destroy the gameplay experience of some of their titles. Probably the most popular example of this is The Crew, which was released in 2014 and had terrible server issues. I can remember quite a few people stating that they weren't even able to play the game in single player mode because they weren't able to connect to the server. thirdly, Ubisoft's bad PC ports. Now, as I previously stated, I'm not a huge PC gamer, but it does seem that quite a few Ubisoft games in the past, such as Assassin's Creed Unity and Watch Dogs, have come under fire for having poor PC ports. Now, to be honest, I don't think this is really a problem that is only limited to Ubisoft, as over the past few years, quite a few publishers have come under fire for releasing broken or shoddy PC ports. The most popular example that comes to my mind at the moment is that of Batman Arkham Knight, which players even had to get refunded for because it was so bad. I do think, however, that the reason that people tend to call Ubisoft out on this a little bit more is that a key member of the Ubisoft team once suggested that PC gamers were mostly pirates, and therefore a little less attention was paid to the PC version of each game, or something along those lines. Fourthly, Ubisoft's stance on review embargoes. Now, a lot of gamers do credit Ubisoft with weaponizing the review system by placing review embargoes on some of their biggest games. A good example was Assassin's Creed Unity and then The Crew, both of which were broken games, but because reviews could only be released after the game had been released, a lot of people bought broken games. A lot of people feel that review embargoes are an attempt to drive up sales by limiting early review availability despite a game being substandard or unfinished. While this is definitely a terrible practice, as without early reviews, some gamers will definitely buy broken or shoddy games, this is a practice that has become increasingly common throughout the industry. Bethesda over the past year has been quite controversially not sending out advanced review copies. Prey didn't receive a review copy, and a lot of people are saying that's why the game isn't selling as well as Bethesda would have liked it to. Thus, it is important to take away that review embargoes isn't an Ubisoft only policy. While I'm not trying to say that it's not fair to fault them on this practice, a lot of gamers do need to bear in mind that Ubisoft is not the only company that does this. And then finally, microtransactions. While some developers have focused on making these transactions non-essential, such as cosmetic DLC, maybe a skin for your gun or something, Ubisoft has come under some harsh criticism for making microtransaction systems that create pay-to-win experiences. You don't have to buy weapon upgrades if you don't want to, but if you don't, you'll probably never win a multiplayer match. In most other games, there is also a chance that you may unlock all the content in a reasonable time frame, provided that you play the game often enough. Whereas in some Ubisoft games, there are just so many items you have to unlock that the system is actually pushing you to buy content. It was actually recently pointed out that For Honor has an in-game currency drop rate that would take players 2.5 years to unlock all content in the game naturally. I don't know how many people are going to be playing that game for that long though. When games become pay-to-win experiences, it often pushes a lot of gamers away from playing those games, as most people want to engage in competitive experiences that do not require you to spend extra cash to ensure that you actually have a fair chance against your opponent. So after having looked at a lot of the reasons people point out for stating why they hate Ubisoft, what can Ubisoft do to change the negative image these factors have created? Ubisoft is a bit of a weird company, as for as many shoddy carbon copy titles they release, they do at times release games that provide a very fun and worthwhile experience. They release so many games each year that regardless of what some say or some feel, they are bound to get it right sometimes. The problem is just the filler surrounding the good releases and the negative aspects surrounding good games. For example, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege provides a very fun and worthwhile gameplay experience, but many feel it uses a pay-to-win model in terms of microtransactions. Then there is For Honor, which is a very fun game to play, provided that it doesn't take you 20 minutes to find a match and that the host of the game isn't a sore loser. And then Assassin's Creed and Far Cry could probably reach the sales numbers Ubisoft expects from these two series again, if they show significant growth in terms of gameplay. The only thing it seems that Ubisoft needs to do in order to achieve and combat their negative image is actually listen to the consumer. They have shown in the past that they are willing to listen to gamers. With Watch Dogs, they took the criticism from the first game and made Watch Dogs 2 a more worthwhile experience. Then with regards to Assassin's Creed, they heard that a lot of people were getting very annoyed with the series and wanted more. They wanted more innovative gameplay, so they took a year off from actually releasing a game in order to make something better. However, it does seem that these periods where they listen to consumers seem to be a little too few and too far in between from each other. Hopefully in future Ubisoft will take consumer complaints into consideration more often, but only time will tell whether this will actually happen or not. Do you dislike Ubisoft? If so, why? Is there anything you think they can do to change their negative public image? Please share in the comments down below, and if you like this video, please remember to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.